Welcome, everyone. While folks continue to join today, please let us know where you're joining us from and what your brand is on Faire in the chat, and get to know people in the chat as well. And we will get started in just a moment here. Awesome. Just to quickly introduce ourselves, my name is David. I'm on our brand growth team over here at Faire, and I'm delighted to be joined by my colleague Eliza, who is our product marketing lead for ads over here at Faire. And we're super excited to talk to you about some of the new updates to promoted listings on Faire, and specifically dive deeper into the new advertising setting some of you may have seen called growth mode. Before we do get started, we'd love to hear any questions you have as we go through the content, so feel free to submit them to us using that Q&A feature on your right side there. You'll also see a tab for docs, which are different helpful resources as well, and then utilize the chat for getting to know the other brands that are here and interacting on there as well. But send any questions that you do have through that Q&A. And then we'll do our best to answer all of those questions in real time as well. And we are going to be recording this session, and we'll be sending out the recording to all of you attendees afterward. So no need to worry about taking any sort of detailed notes throughout this. That said, I do recommend having your Faire portal open alongside the webinar if you want to follow along today. We'll launch a short survey at the end of the session before you do leave, and we ask that you share your feedback and ask any follow-up questions in there as well. And please do take this 60 seconds before we end to share your perspective. It essentially helps us to improve these sessions for you all and understand what's most important to you as we're building out the content here. But without further ado, let's get started. On our agenda for today is going to be reviewing your promoted listings results, how to interpret those key metrics, and what are the most important metrics to look at. Second, we're going to look at how to improve your overall ad performance and optimizing that, and picking the right advertising settings for your brand. We'll also look at different seasonal opportunities and retailer search trends as well. And then we'll have a quick Q&A at the end as well. But let's get started here. So first things first, we're going to dive into results, benchmarks, and evaluating your performance with promoted listings. One call out that I do want to make, and it is something that I tell all of the brands that I work with, is that the baseline of success on Faire is having a really thorough, well built out shop page. Leveraging promoted listings is not just going to be a band-aid that would paper over this, right? You can think of ads like turning the lights on in a retailer storefront. You want everything on the shelves to be tidy, well merchandised, and optimized for conversion. And if everything isn't tidy and ready to go, right, you aren't as likely to see success. Before we hop in, we'd love to understand from the group here, everyone's familiarity with different types of advertising. You should see a poll show up now in the right side of your screen that asks, what type of advertising are you doing today? So I'll give people a couple moments there to answer those questions. Awesome. Seeing a lot of votes come through for Meta, a couple come through for Google, a lot in here for Faire as well, which is awesome to see. So it seems like people have quite a lot of familiarity with not only Faire's advertising, but different D2C advertising as well. And one call out that I always want to make is just to kind of call it a distinction between wholesale and D2C advertising, that wholesale is really more about acquiring a customer and getting an order than selling an individual product. And we'll get into this in more detail here in just a second. So the baseline of how promoted listings works is that we are really looking to expand your overall impressions by putting you in high visibility positions in front of high intent retailers. And this in turn will lead to higher views of your products, more clicks, and more orders from here, leading to an increase in overall sales. And on average, what we've seen with brands that leverage promoted listings on Faire is a 70% increase in product views in search and category pages, as well as a 25% increase in new customer sales and new customer acquisition compared to organic performance. And now this is overall kind of an average of what we've seen. So let's get into your own personal analytics overview and what the most important metrics are to look for there. When reviewing your analytics, I would recommend focusing on four core metrics. The first one's going to be total ad sales. So, how much sales have you seen from all of your guys' ads to date? The second one's going to be total ad spend. So, this is going to be the accumulation of that ad budget that's been used up over time. And third's going to be total conversion. So, looking at both the new and returning customers that your team has acquired over time while running ads. And lastly, and most importantly, you're going to see blended first year return on ad spend. And I'm going to harp on this a lot throughout, but this is the real value of wholesale advertising on Faire, driving these long term relationships. A lot of you mentioned that you had used D2C in addition to Faire's advertising in the past. So I do kind of want to take a step back and just make a distinction here. With D2C advertising, the main goal is to really get in those first time orders. However, when it comes to wholesale advertising on Faire, while getting in those first orders is very important, the real benefit comes from the lifetime value that you're creating with each successive reorder, right? Wholesale is going to be relationships based. It's more about acquiring a customer and getting in those orders and reorders over time than just selling an individual product one time, right? We're not just looking to drive one transaction, we're looking to build repeat buyers. And each time you get a reorder from a customer acquired through ads, you're going to increase the value of that initial acquisition cost. And while this stat is specifically projected return on ad spend for that first year, it's important to remember that a lot of these relationships that you're creating as you continue to run ads on Faire will end up being multi-year, 2, 3, 4-year relationships where you're creating value with each successive reorder beyond those initial 12 months. I wanted to share a couple of newer analytics for you guys as well that you may have seen in your portal, but how I would go about evaluating them as you guys, look into your performance with ads on Faire. So in the top there, you'll see what is called a stacked sales chart. Basically, what it's showing you is the composition of your customers who have placed orders with you through ads to date. That light blue color is going to be new customers. That orange customer is going to be returning customers. And that maroon color is actually sales from customers in that month that you've previously acquired through promoted listings. And this is really exciting because that maroon color means that not only are you getting net new customers, but those customers that you've acquired through ads are coming back and reordering. So you're starting to build that loyalty with them in there that you're seeing through these recurring orders. And that's going to increase the lifetime value of these relationships that you're building with these retailers. And then on the bottom, as you evaluate your promoted listings month over month, you'll see three new stats. The first is going to be utilization. And this is essentially the percentage of your ad budget that we used up or are pacing to use up in a given month. And we're going to get into this in more detail with Eliza in just a moment. But your utilization, whether low or high, is a really good indicator of which advertising settings you might want to change to increase performance. The other two stats here, first year value and first year ROAS, are projections of sales and return on ad spend that we expect you to see from the ad conversions in that specific month. And it's a really good indicator of when you guys are seeing a lot of success throughout the course of the year. And each of these updates are actually based on feedback from brands like yours to better fit the community that we serve. So please, please, please continue to provide that feedback to us. We are iterating and thinking about that as we kind of update promoted listings. And while your return on ad spend and the long-term relationships you are creating are the most important factors to evaluate, you'll also be able to see how ads are accelerating your growth on Faire. Under the new customers tab in your promoted listings analytics, you'll actually be able to evaluate the incremental lift you're seeing versus your organic sales. You'll see it broken down by both overall sales and new customers. And if ads are driving this additional growth beyond what you would normally see, that's a really strong signal of success. And like I had mentioned before, it's important to view wholesale differently than D2C. Wholesale is going to be relationship based. You're not just generating one transaction, you're building repeat buyers. And that means that everything from your average order volume to the reorder rate that you're creating and all play a factor in that lifetime value. And they all matter when evaluating your return on investment. Now, we are going to move into the different signals in your account to consider for improving your performance with promoted listings on Faire. So I'll pass it over to Eliza to take it from here.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Before we dive into things, I have a quick question for you all that you'll see in your polls. How long have you been using promoted listings? See a mix starting to come through. Some more than 1 year, at least a quarter, just started. Okay, great. Love seeing that there's a mix. And I think that whether you're brand new or have been at this for a while, what I'm about to share will be useful for you. And one thing that I do always tell brands is give your ads at least a month before you start tweaking things. The system really needs to learn, and you want to be reacting to real signals versus just noise. So keep that in mind as we go through this. So, how do you actually improve your performance? There are really two things to consider: the signals that tell you what's working and the adjustments that you can make to respond to those signals. Those adjustments include increasing relevance in search, improving conversion, both of which also impact your organic performance, as well as adjusting your advertising settings. So, what does optimal actually look like? It's honestly different for every brand, and you know your business better than we do. We want you to get the most out of ads, but in a way that actually works for your margins, your budget, your goals. So, rather than give you a one size fits all answer or advice, I'm going to walk you through some signals that you can look for to make the call that's right for you. And these are really just like signals to take a look at. So, some of those signals, I would start by looking at impressions, clicks, and conversions. David made a really great point earlier. Good listings make for good ads. It's not a band aid solution. And so, you really want to focus on the quality of your listings themselves. So, if these metrics of impressions and clicks and conversions are underperforming, it's usually a sign to go back to the foundations and optimize your listings before changing any ad settings. So first off, let's start by looking at what impressions can tell us about search relevance. Impressions reflect how often your products are showing up in retailer search results. And one thing to keep in mind is to look at trends quarter over quarter rather than month to month, because some seasonal fluctuation is totally normal. But if you're seeing a longer term decline, that's usually a sign to go back to those basics, make sure your listings are optimized for visibility. So let's talk about how to do that. There's a few things to look for that influence your search visibility. First of all, you want to make sure that your shop profile is complete, including brand tags, ship from location, and a full catalog. And having a full catalog is really one of the best ways to boost your visibility. This is especially true for promoted listings. The more products you have available for promotion, the more matches we're actually able to make for you. But we also totally understand that there may be some products that you don't want promoted. Like if they have tight margins, they're display products, they're seasonal, they have low inventory, things like that. And so you can actually easily exclude any of those products from showing up in your ads if you just go to the product in your portal and toggle off ads at the bottom of that page. You also want to check to see that your product titles and descriptions are searchable. One test that I love for this is if a retailer couldn't see the image, would the title alone tell them what the product is? So, for example, gold plated 12-inch Camilla heart charm necklace is going to do a lot more work in search than just Camilla love necklace, which might be the name of the product, but isn't really descriptive of what the product actually is. So, clarity in general helps drive discoverability, which is really the foundation of SEO or search engine optimization. And if you're not familiar with SEO, I'd highly recommend checking out some of our resources on this. Some of them are linked in the doc section of this webinar. They're all on learn.faire.com. And learning about SEO and optimizing for SEO is a really big part of optimizing your discoverability, both for organic search and ads. You also want to make sure that your products are accurately categorized and tagged so that when retailers are filtering their searches for certain things, you're showing up in the right ones. And then high quality images. I know this is no surprise, but it really does make a difference. Think about how easily when you're online shopping, you're hooked by an image, or at least I am. So that shows just how important having strong imagery is. And then a few other things to think about. One, providing retailers with a good experience makes a huge difference. Make sure you're reliable, you're communicating effectively, you're shipping on time so that you're getting good reviews and showing up in more searches. And then last but definitely not least, you want to drive external traffic to your Faire shop. So let's dig into that a little bit more. Driving traffic to your Faire store strengthens your performance signals overall, and Faire Direct is really the best way to do that. As a reminder, for those who are or aren't using Faire Direct allows you to take orders from retailers that you already have a relationship with off the platform, and you don't pay commission on those orders that you drive. So, as many of you know, we don't advertise to your Faire Direct retailers that you drive to the platform. So you might be thinking, like, why would Faire Direct and using it help with the performance of my ads? And the answer is really that the more that we know about the types of retailers that shop your products on and off the platform, the better we get at showing you to retailers that are likely to convert. So both organically and through ads. So to summarize all of that, if you're seeing that your impressions are lower than you'd like or trending down, go back to the basics. Make sure your listings are in tip-top shape, optimize your product titles and descriptions for searchability, and invite your existing retailers to shop with you through Faire Direct. And even if your impressions are good and you're showing up in searches, you still may need to take a look at the foundations if those impressions aren't then turning into clicks or conversions. If impressions look healthy, but clicks are low, it's a good idea to take a look at your images, your titles, and your pricing. If your clicks are strong, but your conversions aren't following, that usually points to high minimum order thresholds that should be reconsidered, the possibility to add shipping incentives, or fulfillment signals that are worth revisiting. So once you've got all of these foundations in a good place, which will impact both your organic and ads results, now you can consider playing around with some of your advertising settings. So as you all know, when you start advertising, you select your monthly budget and your target audience. But we also recently launched a new setting last week called Growth Mode. And this is something that I'm personally really excited about because it's something that has been requested time and time again from our advertising brands. And so I'm really excited to hear how people feel about it and react to it and use it, and excited to have you all try it. So Growth Mode essentially just lets you tell us how aggressively you want to promote your products. And when you start advertising, we default you to a growth mode based on your previous performance on the platform, but you can change it at any time, which we'll talk through more in a sec. Let's just quickly go through what all of these different growth modes are. At the low end, there's conservative, which is where you want to be if cost efficiency is your number one priority. Moderate is what we recommend if you're testing ads for the first time or aren't totally sure what you want to prioritize. This setting will give you a really good balance of visibility and cost while still keeping your average cost per click on the lower side. And then if you want to be a bit more aggressive and capitalize on more opportunities to reach customers, there's competitive. So you'll get more frequent placement, but may see a slightly higher cost per click with this. And aggressive is the option to choose when you really want to maximize your visibility. So this option will come with higher average cost per clicks. So it's best for brands who really want to accelerate growth and are comfortable with the trade-off of cost. But regardless of what you choose here, we always have guardrails in place to keep your costs reasonable and make sure that you're getting a good return on your ads. So growth mode is really just your way of signaling to the system what we should prioritize. So as David mentioned before, one of the most useful things to watch when you're adjusting your settings or thinking about adjusting your settings is utilization, which is the percent of your monthly budget that we actually spend. And a common worry that we hear is, I set a $500 budget and you only spent $129. Am I doing something wrong? And the answer is you're not. We bid on your behalf and aim to spend as efficiently as possible. And because we have a pay per click model, we only draw from your budget when a retailer actually takes action and clicks on that listing. So you're not actually paying for any of the visibility that you're getting through ads. And with that, in some months, you won't actually use your full limit, and that's totally okay. But that being said, utilization is a really great diagnostic tool. And some of these percentages to think about, to look for with utilization that I'll share are really directional, and you need to, take a look at what's working for your business, as I said before. But also it's worth noting that we're going to share suggestions in your portal when we think that a change could unlock more value for you. So you're not doing this alone. We will be providing recommendations. But in a general sense, if your utilization is below 50%, it means that you likely have more opportunity to reach customers, but we're being conservative to ensure your costs stay lower. So this is a good opportunity to consider bumping up your growth mode. And when you do this, you might see higher average cost per clicks, but you'll also get more reach and more chances to connect with the right retailers. On the other hand, if your utilization is above 70%, that's a signal that your budget is what's holding you back. The way our system works, we pace your spend across the month. So when there's a surge of opportunities, we sometimes have to pause your ads to avoid spending over your limit. And increasing your budget here would mean fewer of those pauses and more consistent visibility. And if you're curious about where to set your budget or how to increase it, we actually provide recommended ranges right in your advertising settings based on your historical data. So you don't have to guess. We highly recommend looking at those ranges. And then if you're somewhere in between, in the middle, the good news is that you have room to grow in both directions. I would recommend starting with one change at a time so that you can actually see what's making a difference for you. If you have budget flexibility, I would try increasing that first and see how it moves the needle. If budget isn't something that you want to touch right now, then growth mode is a really great lever to pull. It won't change your overall spend. It'll just change how aggressively we're bidding with it. And look, you do not have to be constantly tweaking things. If you're happy with your results, especially the long-term value metrics that David walked us through, that's a win. You have the flexibility to adjust over time. And David will now walk you through how to consider seasonality as you're thinking about adjustments.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eliza. I'm going to touch on some seasonal trends that teams like yours can really look to capitalize on at this time of the year. As with most industries, wholesale buying follows predictable seasonal waves, albeit typically a few weeks sooner than your D2C channels. On here, you can see that we are starting to ramp into summer and fall buying. Additionally, Atlanta market is going to be a month earlier this year than usual, so retailers are really starting to build their carts and exploring products even sooner. And in a little over 2 months, we've also got the Faire market coming up. Prior to this is a great time to evaluate your advertising settings, as well as looking to shop optimization to make sure everything's really dialed into your team's strategy to take advantage of these high traffic times. And depending on your brand's products and current utilization, this could be a great time to play around with your budget or growth mode, especially if your products are seasonally relevant, right? Just for example, if you're a swimsuit or summer clothing brand, you may increase either of these or both prior to your busiest season. You should use this graph as a directional guide, but review your own brand and when might be best to adjust your budget accordingly. So wanted to also show you guys a couple of the seasonal trending search terms today. As we move into kind of like more summer buying, you'll see stuff on here for sunglasses, 4th of July matcha, which is I guess is a summer seasonal drink. Tote bags, I know as a 28-year-old in Brooklyn, I am constantly on the search for a good tote bag. But as you kind of evaluate these, think about ways that you can really stay ahead with your catalog merchandising and descriptions to meet that retailer demand. Additionally, think of ways that you can add these in creatively to your collections. So recently, what I've seen from brands is 4th of July collections are really popular. Maybe it's summer accessories collections, things of that nature, just to point out what might be most relevant to a given retailer at a specific time of the year. These collections are going to really help to improve your overall conversion rate. And then before we do get into some Q&As here, I did want to let everyone here know that the dates for Faire Summer Market were just announced. It's going to be taking place from July 20th to to the 23rd. On July 20th, it will only be insider retailers that have early access. But previously, teams that have ran ads during the market, in addition to a market promotion, actually saw 20% more sales than teams who just ran a market promotion. So all of you that are here today are in a very good position to benefit from that. And these 3 days, in addition to the winter market, are the busiest days of shopping on Faire throughout the course of the year. So make sure that your team is in a position to capitalize on the influx of traffic. And beyond making sure that you've done everything possible to optimize your shop, I'd recommend evaluating your advertising settings to take advantage of the amount of retailer traffic during this time of the year. And now we are going to get into some Q&As here. So feel free to keep submitting questions in the Q&A as well. But whatever doesn't get answered in the time allotted, we will follow up with afterward. Awesome. So looking at this first question here from Victoria, will increasing budget take effect right away, or do changes occur for the following month? So essentially it'll take place 24 hours after that budget increase goes into effect. And then I would recommend continuing to kind of leave where it is throughout the course of that month when you're making changes. We recommend after you made a change to let it run for a month to kind of see the results flow in there, but it does take effect after about 24 hours. Awesome. I did see a question here from Alexis. Is it smart to limit the number of listings included in paid promotions, or is it best to include the entire catalog? This is a great question. It's actually one that I get a ton. I would recommend having your entire catalog available for promoted listings, unless there's like extenuating circumstances like seasonal products, low inventory, or really low margin. And the reason that I would have all of your catalog available is that the more listings that you have available to be promoted, the more retailers that we're going to be able to show you to in different types of categories that buy different types of products. And just because a retailer clicks on one of your listings doesn't mean that they're going to end up ordering that specific product. And because of that, you can think of like having all of your listings available for promotion as the gateway onto your guys' shop page. And the more gateways that you guys have available, the more success you're going to see with promoted listings. Anything to add there, Eliza?
Nope, you nailed it. I think that the main thing to think about is like if you're in a world of wanting matches, like the more opportunities to match, the better. So I would highly recommend keeping as much of your catalog available for promotion as possible.
Awesome. And I think we will do one more question here before we get into some key takeaways. Okay, looking here from Anya. I'm not sure I understand the relationship between growth mode setting and what actually changes with how our listings are shown. Does it just mean they are shown more frequently? What is actually happening that make those clicks cost more? Yeah, so Anya, kind of the answer here is that the higher you move up in those growth mode settings from, let's say, moderate to competitive or aggressive, the more frequently we are going to be showing your guys' ads and the more aggressive we are going to be about moving them up the rankings higher. And essentially this will lead to, higher ad spend, higher budget utilization, but can lead to higher average cost per click as well. And anything to add there as well, Eliza?
Yeah, the reason that the clicks might cost more on average is that essentially when you're getting an ad slot, we are bidding for that slot on your behalf based on relevance in the listing. And so if you choose a more aggressive growth mode, we are going to be bidding more aggressively for that slot, and therefore it's going to cost more to get into that slot. And so you may not see that the cost goes up for every single listing. It'll be, on average, and you might not see the cost go up at all, but in general, as we get more aggressive, the cost is likely to go up.
Okay, I think we do have some time actually to take about two more here as well. Awesome. Are there plans to launch additional functionality for ads, e.g., bidding on specific search terms, complementary products, and placements? Good question, Chris. Yes, in the future, we will definitely be adding different types of functionality for ads. Specifically, like growth mode itself was based off of feedback from teams like yours. So I think like the big thing coming out of this that we would love to hear from you all, you can submit it in the survey as well, but we would love to hear like different points of feedback about like what you would like to see from our ads program, what you've liked in different ads programs that you've used. So feel free to keep presenting that feedback to us. And it is like we actively look at all of it and make iterations based upon that. Can you see the ROAS that is truly reflected of ad spend and not just anticipated first year? Yeah, so the easiest way to just see this, like the ROAS that you currently have is just by dividing your total ad spend, or sorry, total ad sales divided by total ad spend, and this will give you your exact current ROAS. I think like the call out there is that like if you've only been running ads for 2 or 3 months, right? With the expectation that you're going to see reorders from these customers, right? Your projected first year ad spend is probably a greater source of like what you're likely to see in terms of that return on investment over the course of a year. Awesome. Well, thank you all for those questions. That was, I feel, hopefully super valuable for all of you. And it's always great to kind of hear what kind of questions people have as well. Moving into some key takeaways here. Before we do wrap up, I wanted to leave you with these three takeaways. Number one would be to just like evaluate your advertising settings. Use your utilization as a guide when considering whether to increase your growth mode, monthly budget, both, or stay as is. And second, look to increase that relevance in search by, just improving overall optimization, whether that be titles, tags, accurate categories, and shop completeness. And then look to drive that external traffic through Faire Direct. Faire Direct acts as like a feedback loop to ensure that we're making the smartest matches for you within the marketplace as well. So it's kind of talking back and forth, enabling us to put you in front of the right retailers. And then last thing here is like looking at ways to improve that conversion as well. So monitor those click and conversion trends, look to refresh imagery and merchandising, and maintain those strong customer service metrics they're kind of a signifier of the experience that you are creating for retailers. And then beyond what you learned today, we also have a ton of other resources available. Plugging learn.faire.com. It's a great place to find different blog posts, these webinars. You should sign up for our monthly newsletter, The Goods, as well. Follow Faire on social media. We post stuff there as well. But there's a ton of resources available and would highly recommend tapping into all of it. And then, yeah, we're going to share the survey right now. I do want to thank everyone so much for coming out today and hope that you got a lot out of it. Please share your feedback in this survey, though. It does help us to make these webinars as valuable as possible for you all. But we do appreciate your participation today and, value you as a really important part of the Faire community as well. So thank you so much. We'll leave that up there for about 2 or 3 minutes here as we close out.